All right, let's just jump right in and talk about one of the most legendary and, let's be honest, intimidating books ever written.
You've definitely heard the name, Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. But man, its reputation alone is just huge. It can feel as vast and intimidating as Russia itself. Even the famous novelist Henry James called it a large, loose, baggy monster. And you know what? He wasn't wrong. The sheer scale of it is just wow.
I mean, just look at this table of contents. It's not a table of contents, it's a novel in itself. It just seems to go on and on. Hundreds of chapters across 4 huge volumes, plus an epilogue. So yeah, it's totally understandable why people just look at this and think, nope, not for me.
Okay, so setting aside that intimidating exterior for a second, what is this so-called monster really about? I mean, what was Tolstoy even doing with this wild structure?
Well, when you get right down to it, it's not really just a war novel. It's an intensely human story. It focuses on these two big noble families, the Bolkonskys and the Rostovs, and this amazing character, Count Pierre Bezukhov. We follow their personal lives, their loves, their losses, their search for what it all means, and all of this is happening against the absolutely epic backdrop of the Napoleonic Wars. But here's the thing. Tolstoy was up to something way bigger than just writing a family drama. He was basically using this novel to launch a full-on attack against the way we even think about history.
So you know that idea, the great man theory of history? The idea that powerful leaders, guys like Napoleon or Alexander, are the ones pulling all the strings and making history happen? Tolstoy thought that was completely wrong. He basically said it was a ridiculously simple, almost childish way to explain something that's way, way more complex.
His idea was this: kings are the slaves of history. He argued that even the most powerful people on the planet are just instruments. They're being swept along by these massive, invisible forces that they can't control and, honestly, probably don't even understand.
So you might be asking, if it's not the great men, then how does history actually happen? Well, according to Tolstoy, any big event, like a battle being lost, isn't because of one general single mistake. No, he said the real cause is the sum of countless, tiny, individual choices and accidents. It's the combined will of millions of people, every soldier, every citizen, all coming together to create what he called this unconscious, swarm-like life of mankind. It's this huge, collective force that really pushes history along. Okay, and this is the aha moment. This whole radical theory of history, it's the absolute key to understanding why the book is built the way it is, why it's so strange and, baggy. The way he does this is just brilliant. Think about it. The famous historical figures like Napoleon. In the book, they come across as these grand but kind of empty figures. They're like puppets trapped by history. But then you have his fictional characters, Pierre, Andrey, Natasha. Their lives are where the real action is. They're small, ordinary, personal moments. That's what Tolstoy shows us as being the most real and significant part of history.
And that brings us to the most crucial point. That unconventional structure, all those jumps from a fancy ballroom one minute to a brutal battlefield the next, from the fictional story to these long philosophical essays, that's not a bug, it's a feature. It is the entire point. Tolstoy himself basically said, this is the form it had to be in. It was the only way he could show us what he believed to be the truth about how life and history really, truly work.
So, okay, what does all this mean for us right now if you're thinking about picking up this book? How are you even supposed to approach it?
I think the translator Richard Pierre put it perfectly. He said it felt like he was translating 2 different books at the same time. And that's exactly what it feels like to read it. On one hand, you have this huge epic story of war and historical events, but woven right into that, shining through it, is this incredibly intimate story about what it actually means to be alive. All the small, ordinary, deeply personal stuff.
So maybe the real key here is to just change your goal. This isn't some mountain you have to conquer, or a box you have to check on a classics list. It's a world. It's a world you get to live in for a while, with characters whose lives start to feel just as real and messy and important as our own.
And that kind of leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? If Tolstoy's right, if history isn't really driven by the heroes and villains we see on the news, but by the sum of all our tiny individual actions, then what are the swarm-like forces driving the story of our own time? What's the real story happening right now?